Well, as Chris was reading the passage from Ruth for us, he had to stop a few times. He said it just had an effect on him. And I can relate to that. I understand what that's like. When we read the story of Ruth, whenever I hear it, I immediately go back to the story of Abraham. If you remember, Abraham was just kind of chilling out, and God came to Abraham and said, "Hey, come with me and go that way." And God pointed northwest. And Abraham said, "Okay," and left. Now, personally, I think that's a pretty stupid thing to do. Just take up and leave everything and everyone you know just because God said to go there. I'd want some reasons, but Abraham did it, and that's probably why he's Abraham and I'm Mark. Ruth is in that same type of unbelievable faith, that category that Abraham was in. Now, I can only imagine what life was like when the whole family was together. Everybody was happy. Things were going well. Great. The two women came who were Moabites, and they did what good foreign wives did when they married someone else. They took over their husband's religion. So they became followers of the mountain god, Yahweh, El, whatever name you want to use. Well, now all of a sudden, 10 years down the road, and things begin to go south. Now their father-in-law is gone, leaving their mother-in-law a widow. That's bad, but, husbands get old, they die, life goes on, especially if you have two good, strapping sons. They'll take care of mom, and they'll take care of their wives. Well, then the sons die. Well, now all of a sudden we got nothing. There's a word for a woman in this time of history that had no male around them. The word was victim. They were open to any and everything. Nobody to provide, nobody to protect. What are they going to do? Well, you would like to think that the Moabite women, if they're smart, they're going to say, okay, we're widows now, not because of any choice we made, but we're going to go find somebody else to take care of us. Makes sense, doesn't it? That's what you would do back then. But they decided, no, we're going to stick with mom. Not the brightest decision, but a faithful one. Naomi knows what the story is. She knows what's happening. And she tells them both, look, I understand the vows and the promises you made and you took, and God love you for it and for sticking around as long as you have. But please, go. I don't want it hanging around my head if anything happens to you. Just consider your debt paid in full and go find whatever happiness you can. And Orpah, she says, no, okay, and leaves. My dad used to say, whenever you go out to lunch with someone, always offer to pay the bill twice. And if a third time they say, no, I got it, slide it over to them and let them take care of it. And so I can see Orpah being here. No, Naomi, I'm going to stay with you. No, you have to leave. No, Naomi, I'm going to stay with you. You have to leave. Okay, bye. And she's gone. Now Naomi looks at Ruth and says, well? And Ruth looks at her and utters those lines that have inspired songs, books, poetry, and prose. Basically, I'm going wherever you go. You can't get rid of me. And every time you turn, I'm going to be right next to you. And if you're in trouble, I'm in trouble. And if you're in good times, I'm celebrating with you. But don't even think about me leaving. And she did this despite going through what she did. Now remember earlier in the story, just a few lines before that, I have Chris disease. Naomi said, God has turned against me. Remember that line? That's the way they looked at it. If things went good, woohoo, God likes me. Things go bad, woohoo, God doesn't like me. God has turned his back on me. God is ignoring me. That was the way that they looked at the world. So despite God taking everything away from her, Ruth was committed to being a part of Naomi's life and her faith. Your God will be my God. Knowing that this God, as they understood it, could be very capricious. 1 minute on your side, making sure your cattle are reproducing and you got lots of camels and kids. The next minute, everything's wiped out. Yet she committed to this God. What's really incredible is how that commitment, how that covenant, how that faith of hers transcended human history. And truly, from our perspective as Christians, changed the course of human events. For it turns out that when we jump ahead a few hundred years and go to the New Testament, and we go to the Gospel of Matthew, and Matthew lays out Jesus' lineage, Matthew includes 4 women, unheard of at that time. One of them was Ruth. So that the lineage of the one that we call Lord and Savior includes this woman. This woman who, despite everything that she had gone through, everything that she had experienced, everything she had been taught, followed through on a commitment and a covenant to be with Naomi and everything that meant. To be with her in her joys, to be with her in her pain, to be with her and her God. We're not used to types of commitment and covenant like that in our world today. We get mad at something or someone and we cut and run. It's just the way our society is. Yet we know that the events of the Bible every one of them are built upon a covenant, a commitment between God and somebody. God and Abraham, God and Noah, God and Moses, God and Ruth. Just as God makes the covenants with us today. Now, did people keep the covenants more faithfully then because they were better people? I don't know. I just know, for the most part, we don't. Is it because we have more choices? It might be. Is it because the voice and the call of God does not resonate with us today as it did back then? And I think that's where we're starting to get it. In our age of reason, enlightenment, science, we can explain just about everything and anything. There is a neurosurgeon that has just written a book that said he can prove that in a near-death experience, he went to heaven. He can prove that. Thereby, in his understanding, prove the existence of God. There's a theological term for that. It's crap. You can't do that. As I have said, as I will continue to say, the moment we prove the existence of God, God no longer exists. Because then faith is taken out of the equation. Brian, I have 2 fingers. I have 2 more fingers. How many do I have? That's right. Do you have faith in me that there are 4? You can see that there are 4. Had me worried there. You looked puzzled. Maybe it's still the medication, but okay. They had a faith that somehow we do not allow ourselves to have. A trust that we do not allow ourselves to have. We're getting ready for our big election. Everybody's talking about biblical values in God we trust and all this other stuff. Again, think of that theological term. We don't trust in God. We trust in the military that will protect us. We trust in the insurance companies that will take it. We trust in everybody else. And God's just, kind of there to fall back on if things don't go well, or to blame when things go wrong. We need to reclaim the faith of Ruth. We need to be willing to look at the good and the bad, and to say with praise and thanksgiving in our voice, "You are our God." I know that this type of commitment and covenant is possible. I know that we can do it. Because I know people that do. I know people that have. I live with Ruth. Wherever you go, I will go. Take me from my family and friends in Cleveland to St. Louis, Missouri. Or as my daughter said, misery. She went Wherever you go, I will go. To St. Johnsbury, freaking Vermont? It doesn't even show up on the atlas. It's 1,200 miles away from my family and friends, my children, but I will go. Has it always been easy? Well, it has been for me. But I get paid big bucks. Has it always been fun? But has it always been a time where God moved in our midst and allowed the things to be done that were done? Yes. Ruth is an unbelievable example for us. But we have living examples in our midst. And I cite one, obviously, because I'm prejudiced. But I know of many, many, many others. What we need to do is to look up, to look at, to strive to be examples of constant faith and commitment. Is it always easy? Of course not. Does it hurt sometimes? Yes. Do we need Band-Aids for the boo-boos? All too often. But we know that our God will be there. The God that provided for Abraham. The God that provided for Ruth. The God that provided the strength for Christ on the cross. The God that has allowed me to make the faith journey and pilgrimage that I have made to be here today. We have the faith of our forebears, of all the saints that have gone before. My hope, my prayer is that we will have the strength and the courage to live that faith.